Hello, everyone. My name is Andreas Zimmermann from mysupply. And also in the beginning of this year, we want to make a short recap of the last year's development in procurement and also try to have a little outlook into the trends of the next coming year. And I don't know anyone else to talk about this and get his prediction in a more interesting way than with my today's guest. I just want to briefly have a look at his impressive career so far. He did his PhD in the wonderful city of Hamburg. Good idea to be there. He was CPO at the big company SAP. He turned to be the CEO of SAP Ariba, the most common software for procurement. He has become then also very interested in working with startups. So he became Chief Innovation Officer of Celonis, one of the big unicorns in Germany, and was even there responsible for the innovation. Then he turned to be partner at BCG. And now he's running his own company, is CEO of Prospitalita Group. And I'm very, very honored and very proud to have you here today. Marcell Vollmer, it's amazing that you can spend a few minutes with us. Thank you for that.
Andreas, it's great being here today, and Happy New Year, and also welcome on my side. Just for clarification, so Prospitalia is I'm CEO of the group, but not my own company. It's private equity owned
all right, okay.
Services for hospitals. But great being here and reflecting a little bit what happened last year. Lots of things impacted all our lives, as well as now hopefully discussing with you a little bit the outlook, and hopefully it will become better.
Yeah. So last year, when we had also a little conversations with a few very, very interesting people from procurement, of course, nobody had an idea what's coming on this year. So it was completely overwhelming for everyone. It was very hard to predict. So we had these years 2020 and 21, which was driven mainly by Corona, by supply chain shortages, and everybody was basically expecting that things are turning better in 2022. But it even in some cases really got worse, and we are getting into really a struggling situation. So what is your idea, Marcell? What do you think will happen, especially how to get back to normal in 2022? How is this, let's say, how is this possible by having such a hard year as we had it?
Yeah, Andreas, predictions are difficult, especially about the future. It was not me, I think it was Winston Churchill, Mark Twain, Niels Bohr, who came up first with this quote, and I couldn't agree more. We all wish, I would assume, coming back to a normal situation, and mainly also hopefully that we will see a stop of the horrible war, Russia against the Ukraine. I think we were also prized 2020. Really started very well. I think after Corona, you mentioned that, some supply chain shortages, what we have experienced, or the Evergreen got stuck in the Suez Canal. Some might remember what can happen. One single ship can really bring the entire trade between Asia and Europe to a standstill for a few days, which was really impacting our lives. It started well, but then of course the war is really making a big impact and change. In particular, we see all the energy costs are going through the roof, which is definitely impacting all of us. Fortunately, as we speak, the prices is going down again, and hopefully in Europe we will not see too tough impact here on the energy cost side in the mid to long term. At least this is what I would wish. Yeah, outlook is difficult and prediction. I hope really that we can focus back, leveraging globalization, that we will get logistics and supply chain under control. And on the procurement side also that we find a way with this high inflation, what we have experienced, at least at the fourth quarter last year, that we will see here that the inflation is coming down, and hopefully also not the price increases will impact our business too heavily. At least that's what I hope. Not sure if this is a very precise outlook what's happening, but hopefully also technology can help us a little bit to get more market insights, overcome the one or other shortage, as well as also helping us to work and collaborate with our suppliers, and also ensure that we can secure our supply chain for the company we do business with.
Yes. So let's stick with 2020 for a moment. So in the beginning of 2020, everybody was talking about sustainability. This was a huge topic. Of course, then surprisingly, we had a war in Europe. So a lot of things have been changing, of course, during that year. Do you think so the people have been still on track, working on having a better, especially in procurement, a better focus on sustainability topics? Did this happen in 2020, or what is getting a bit stuck because of the whole situation? What do you think?
Andreas, I would agree on sustainability as a priority, as I agree that sustainability needs to be our number one priority in procurement, but also broader, because for my belief, we only have one planet, so we better take care of it. I think beginning of the year, I would fully support what you said about the prioritization. When we have seen what the impact is of the Russian-Ukraine war, I think it drastically changed. And we see now also that on the energy side, to mitigate the shortage or basically the stop of Russian gas, also a reduction in Russian oil, that we focus a little bit more now on mitigating the situation and overcoming the shortage what we have. I think this is now probably a higher priority when we compare to sustainability. What I see. This might change now, and hopefully it will change, that we really focus not only on sustainability, I would more say the 17 Sustainable Development Goals from the United Nations. In particular, to keep it short, you can say sustainability and CSR, corporate social responsibility. I think with that we cover really the core. And in procurement, we need to focus on that. There's also one additional reason, at least since January here in Germany, and this is the Supply Chain Act, which is in place. And in German, it's called Lieferkettensorggesetz. A horrible name, probably only in the German language is possible to put so many words in a row and use it then for law. But the impact on that is that companies with more than 3,000 people, later it will be also companies with more than 1,000 employees, are responsible for the suppliers they do business with, that also the working conditions and the sustainability standards defined are really audited and checked. Otherwise, there's a liability for the businesses. And I think by that, we will see the prioritization that sustainability as a topic will come back in this year. Absolutely, in particular in Germany, but also on the European side. There's a CO2 price, which is currently in discussion, not finally agreed. That's pretty obvious that CO2, the emissions we will import, will get a price, and by that, a kind of customs. What will come on top of that, we will also see a little bit of shift in now how we assess the economic situation, the price, what we can get, and of course, we will continue to leverage the globalization benefits, but on the other side, also to look at local aspects. Are there sustainable suppliers probably within Europe to reduce the transportation costs if these costs are getting higher?
Do you think that companies are really, let's say, okay with paying more if it's more sustainable now? So because this was also for me, of course, everybody wants to have it sustainable. And sustainability is, of course, very important, but it should be for free. So do you think also in the minds of, let's say, the company owners or let's say the leadership teams of bigger companies, their minds change and they figured out, okay, we won't get it for free and we are now investing, of course, in something?
I think it depends. It is not only just a change or shift in the mindset. I think it is also, and therefore I mentioned also the European regulation, which will definitely support that we will see a shift on the economic side. And by that, it is no longer just, hey, I want to do something good, and therefore greenwashing was in the past something what happened. It's a little bit more. There's impact behind that. My favorite example on that is I have a picture of a plastic package. Written on it is pears grown in Argentina, packaged in Thailand. Just to give a little bit a sense of what it means on logistics. Argentina to Thailand, so across the Pacific Ocean, and then basically doing the packaging there and sending it back. I could get the picture from the United States, so from a US supermarket. Basically, this is once around the world. There's a good economic reason for that, and of course, it is not a nonsense decision what the company has done. But basically, when you look nowadays, that on the one side, transportation costs are higher. The container is no longer what it was in the past. Asia, Europe was about 2,000 US dollar what you had to pay for one container, standard container. It went up to more than 20,000 during COVID, and it's down now by 3,000-4,000, but still more than twice or almost twice as much as it was before. So we see on the one side a change on the transportation logistic cost. On the other side, coming back to what I said about the emissions, if there's now a price for CO2 emissions, you need simply to factor in what the additional custom is, what comes on top of that. And by that, you will probably see that it doesn't make sense to ship something around in the world and use probably also the capabilities what you have within your region, or even using local suppliers. I think we will definitely see a more diverse assessment and deep dive into the capabilities of potential suppliers in your region to compare really the prices with everything factored in.
Yes, absolutely agreed. So we of course, as we are running a startup, and of course we have been talking to many customers in the procurement space or potential customers for us. And it was pretty interesting to learn that there's, from my perspective, two complete different worlds between medium-sized companies or small and medium-sized companies and the corporate world. So this means, for my understanding, so in smaller and medium-sized companies, everybody who was who was able to walk has been carrying a bucket of water and try to get things done in the supply chain to secure everything what is needed. So there was really, really no people around for having the chance to take care for really what needs to be done on top for, let's say, getting the company on the next track, especially when it comes, for example, to procurement digitalization. These kind of things have been very much stuck, as in my perception at least, in the smaller and medium-sized companies. It was not really a priority because the other priority was just so high. In the corporate world, of course, there were people who just have the capacity to look into more digitalization and into doing better, into what can we all do on sustainability, or what will be upcoming within the next year. So much more prediction in the corporate world than have seen it, or let's say the medium-sized company just have been able to, because of the limited workforce, of course, they have in procurement. So what is your impression? Does this also, do you see this situation a bit similar than I do?
I think, Andreas, there's definitely a big difference between large enterprise or larger mid-enterprise businesses and small, medium enterprise businesses. Absolutely. And there's a different prioritization what you have to keep your operations running, to do business, and to really leverage the resources what you have to the best extent. And it's always a compromise what you need to do to ensure that you follow the most important priorities you have to find for your business. And for me, this is always serving the customer, period. When you fail serving your customer, you might run in serious trouble with your business model. If you meet the customer expectations, I think you can be successful if you are, of course, compatible on the price side as well as also on the defined standards. And here it comes, where you see what are the customer expectations. Customer expectations in the past, very often driven by price, absolutely fair. There was also little to none transparency about how are getting goods produced, who was really taking care. I'm now 52 now. Everyone knows how old I am. So basically, I haven't had any transparency when I started going in a supermarket together with my parents buying stuff. In the meantime, it is totally different. You have a set of information on the package written. You exactly know things what I mentioned, the pears grown in Argentina, packaged in Thailand, was even not clear where things were packaged before. This level of transparency is also driving now certain customer expectation. And by that, you need to think about what are the customer demands and how can you fulfill that? And therefore, you need to think a little bit differently about how to run the business. And smaller companies have an advantage. They are more agile. They can really change certain things, execute decisions, which is easier than for a large corporation where you have a complex supply chain production. You need to align sales, procurement, all the different departments, which is really a tough job by itself to do. And I think by that, we need to differentiate on the one side, what are the customer demands? How can you meet that? And also, how can you best focus your organization? Because I believe success is linked, besides the customer expectation, what you need to meet, also on the focus, what you have as a business to ensure that you can be successful and really do the important things.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Of course, it would be nice, of course, also to let's say, try an outlook about what's coming up this year. So we already discussed about sustainability. Following your words, I guess it will still be, let's say, a very, very high trend topic. So what else do you see? So what is the other topics, or what in particular also about sustainability do you see as this is really right now trending in 23? So this is becoming very important. Maybe also in terms of maybe there needs to be a differentiation between the corporate world and also the medium-sized companies. So what is your idea? What's coming up this year?
I think number one for me is hopefully the economy will go back to growth. We see some positive numbers now coming in from 2022. I hope this will continue. We will see the impact of the change in the interest rate. Getting capitalization liquidity has now a different price tag. We need to deal with that. And by that, we need to think about how do we structure our business. On the supply chain risk side, I definitely see that we learned a lot from the latest crises, where we need now to focus on how can we secure our business and keep our supply chain up and running. The fourth thing I expect is also that we will think about new ways on saving energy or also manage the current energy situation. This also impacts us on the procurement side. We need to buy energy, and of course, renewable energy is definitely a hot topic. And this leads me to the fifth and last topic, what I would see. Sustainability driven by regulation, what we will see. I mentioned Germany with the Supply Chain Act. I mentioned EU with additional regulations, COP 26, another one, 27 is the next one. What will come, we definitely also will see impact of our business, and by that a different prioritization of sustainability driven also by the customer demand, what we see.
Okay. Of course, for the startup world, it's also interesting what's trending there. So what is still missing in the market? What is already there? So where obviously companies like SAP Ariba dealing within a standard. So what is happening also in other ways? So it's also interesting maybe to learn about your ideas about what's trending also from the let's say digital solution side. So now we are very much into sourcing, and for us, autonomous sourcing is a huge topic. But there's also other topics that are really, from my perspective, very much trending. Many have to do with data. So of course, like CO2 emission, really getting all the data, for example, is one huge topic where there's many startups also in that space that can provide scorings about sustainability and certificates. So, so what is your idea? What is really hot? What's happening also in 23 more than we had it in the past?
I think, to use a buzzword, digital transformation and procurement will continue. I think probably people think now they are tired of hearing that e-procurement is already 30 years old. And therefore there needs to be something new, and I fully agree on that. To bring a little bit more flavor into that, I think there are 6 big source-to-pay solution providers. Ariba is one of them, SAP, what you mentioned. But on the other side, we see also there's a big bunch of other companies focusing on source-to-contract, the strategic side, on P2P, the more operational side, transactional side, but also startups for risk management, for sustainability, what we see out there. In total, the latest what I have seen, there's 30 billion invested in startups in the procure tech world. So basically startups focusing on certain topics in procurement, from process improvements to really strategic sourcing or automating certain elements of still manual processes what we have. So I think we are definitely in a situation where we see a lot of investment in the procurement space. There's a good reason for that, because the impact of procurement is huge on the margin, on the profitability, what you have as a company. Think about that, what you need to sell in addition compared to what it brings you for your margin impact when you save another person point. So do the math, depending on your business model, what you have. There's a huge delta, and therefore I believe with all what we have seen with the supply chain situation, with the risk what we see, with a more resilient supply chain we need in the future, we definitely see how important it is now to focus on procurement, and also you need to have the right tools and systems available. Why? No human brain can process all the information, thousands of suppliers where you need to have information, where you need market insights to also get early alerts if something is happening or your supply chain gets disrupted. That's something what I see there. So the investments will continue. When you ask me about a specific area within the source-to-pay solution landscape, I definitely see more investments happening now on the strategic sourcing side. The reason for that is there was not so much done in the past, and therefore I believe that this will be definitely a spot where we will see probably not directly autonomous sourcing, what you mentioned. I think that's a little bit further out. There's still certain tasks what you can automate. If you connect your warehouse management system to your procurement system, you can automatically reorder. But I think when you look more on the planning side, then I think you need to have a different integration, and the systems are developing now and hopefully become more intelligent, that we really can stop doing the manual transactional processes. I'm pretty sure no one really likes that, processing anything on the operational side, and leveraging more the insights and working closer with suppliers to drive innovations, for example, to mitigate risk or think about potential risk mitigation, or to drive sustainability initiatives to really benefit here from the insights from the market what companies have.
Okay. Marcell, it was an incredible pleasure to talk to you today. Thank you so much for your time. It was so many insights and I learned a lot. Thanks again. Have a great 23 and and of course, and a peaceful 23. And of course, everybody hopefully enjoyed it. Have a great 23 and hopefully talk to you beginning of next year. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Andreas. It was a great pleasure talking to you. And for all the people listening, all the best. And I hope it was insightful. Have a great 2023. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Marcell.